Oh, and that's it. That's it. That's the whole thing. So many people have been busy worshiping the man Jesus that they've just forgot to follow him. Even though he said, follow me. Although I sometimes wonder if it's like, do you follow me? But anyway. But I honestly I think he said, greater things than I have done, you can do. But you need to follow the example I set. I'm really grateful that I got to work with 30 people in a class called What Would Jesus Do? And we started, it was a study of the Gospel of John. And we started with, in the beginning was the Word. We saw its link to Egyptian mythology. Anyway, we started there and we ended up where Jesus was comforting his followers, saying, you know, if I continue to speak out, I'm not gonna stay here long. But be comforted, because if I leave, you'll stop paying attention to me and start to pay attention to the Spirit within you. That was so powerful. Somebody that's willing to give up. It's all about, you know, remember that, what was it? What was the show? It's All About Jack? No, Just Jack. What was that show? Will and Grace. Jesus. Anyway, it's all about Jesus. How many of you have been there? And you were in a church that was all about Jesus. And you worship Jesus. And Jesus would save you, but from what? I mean, let's think about this. And I only talk about Jesus once a year. I mean, like this. And so if you're here, you need to hear this. Because I rarely bring this up. If Jesus was going to save us, the world would be in better condition. There'd be a whole lot more love, a whole lot more compassion, caring, sharing. Unless I mean mine. So that wasn't true, maybe. But the Christ does save us. The Christ, not Jesus, the Christ saves us from the turmoil that we can go through. So I'm really grateful that you're here. I'm grateful that people are watching online. And I want to give my last part of What Would Jesus Do? Because we left off when he was saying, I'm not going to back down. I'm not going to acquiesce. I'm not going to make nice. I mean, we can only say this one time a year, so I'm just going to say it now. He was a badass. I mean, like, he was just going to do what he was going to do. And he knew he was ticking off people like crazy, and he was disappointing people like crazy. And he did it anyway. Spiritual people can be so strong. We're not wimps. You know, I've been wondering when I was going to say this, but now I am. People have wanted me to be more out there with how we need to protest what's going on. And I'm thinking, people I know what's going on. I don't need to tell them. I mean, people know what's going on. And if they like what's going on, I can't convince them otherwise. Does it make sense? But what's really interesting is those people think that we have to be up in arms, and they don't believe in the power of prayer. Like, how dare you say that your being on the street is not is more powerful than me in prayer for a day, knowing that peace is breaking out in people's hearts and our willingness to stand up for what's right is breaking out in people's hearts. How dare someone say that prayer is not effective? One of the things that I learned by following Jesus is that miracles can be normal. And shifts in consciousness can be normal, because he took a bunch of people I wouldn't have hung out with in my earlier years, and turned them into something that was powerful. Anyway, so that's my thought. So let's start with where we left off. He's telling everybody it's not going to be good. So what can we learn from the last day of his life? Basically, we get to learn how to live when things get difficult. How to live when things are definitely not going your way. And I'm just going to, didn't know this was on, there's off. And that Jesus never showed any signs of considering himself a victim. That's interesting, isn't it? I think after the first thing I would have said, oh, it's like there's a high bar to live up to. No, it's easier to worship than to follow. That I'm not a victim? That I have choice in this? Not choice maybe to what's going to happen, but how I will respond and how I will cooperate. The message, I think, is that we can come from a higher place, a place of such love that we are not conditioned by conditions. And that sounds like, you're not conditioned by conditions. Yeah. The Obamas said that when they go low, we go high. That's a nice phrase. But I want to share with you what many people would consider a great mystic, that was Maharishi, who was the guru to Ram Dass. Ram Dass asked him about Jesus. And Ram Dass said, when I asked the Maharishi how to meditate, he said, meditate like Christ. And I said, Maharishi, how did Christ meditate? And he became very quiet and closed his eyes. And after a few minutes, he had a blissful expression on his face and a tear trickling down his cheek. He opened his eyes and he said, Jesus lost himself in love. Try to meditate losing yourself in love. You never know what a devotee's statement would evoke. A boy came one time and asked Maharishi, did Jesus really get angry? And as soon as the Maharishi heard the word Jesus, tears came to his eyes, and he sat, and as he was sitting up, he then decided to lean over on his elbow and tapped his heart 3 times, and tears coming down his eyes. There was total silence for a moment, and then Maharishi had brought the reality of Christ into everyone's consciousness, because the Christ is always conscious. It's his consciousness. It's a vibration. And someone can tap into it, and then it's transmittable to everyone. Not through worship, but through follow. Maharishi was a follower of Jesus. So why not me? He said Christ never got angry. When he was crucified, he felt only love. Christ was never attached to anything, and he even gave away everything. That's powerful stuff. Just find that kind of love. How many of you have been in love, like big time love, like overwhelming love? Did you notice that things are less bothersome when you're in love? I mean, really? Like you're in love, it's like, oh yeah, traffic. Oh, long line. Oh. That's our love. What if we followed the love of someone who said, God is love and I am God? Wow. Now that's an amazing experience for him, and it's an amazing thing to follow, don't you think? To follow that kind of love? When that kind of love happens, forgiveness happens. In fact, actually, forgiveness isn't even necessary. Do you know that there's a place beyond forgiveness? Humans forgive. Love doesn't take offense. Get the difference? Wow, I want to follow that. Because I've done the forgiveness route. I love you, I bless you, I forgive you. I love you, I bless you, forgive you. I love you, I bless you, forgive you. You know, that's for just small things. And then for months on end for other things. But wow, to have the kind of love, it's like, they are where they are. When he had been betrayed and abandoned, Jesus looked down on the people who had scurried off and the other people who had done things, and what he said is, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. Because he knew that they were doing all they could at the level of their education, at the level of their development, at the level of their ability. It's like getting really mad at a 1-year-old for messing his pants. You don't, you just love them, you got to clean it up, but you get over it. Why? Because they're doing all they can as a 1-year-old. And some of us, and that's why Paul talks about children. When you were a child, you could accept certain things. He understood that we're all in different levels of development. But we can follow the message of love. We can follow the message of oneness. We can follow the message of togetherness. We can follow the message of we are powerful, and we are worthy, and we're already accepted. We can follow that message. And then we get to the place where it's not so much about forgiveness, it's about seeing and loving a person where they are, because guess what? They don't know what they're doing, and most likely in 10 years they will. How many of you have looked back at things that you did 10 years ago, and you go, oh, really? Oh, geez. And it's going to continue. The more we grow, the more we know, the more we'll look back and I wish I hadn't done it that way. Ew. Maya Angelou said, when we know better, we'll do better. Isn't that the truth? It really helps me forgive some of the stuff my mother did. She knew not what she did. And probably if I'd had the same background and the same age she was when she got pregnant, unexpectedly, I might have done the same thing and been the same kind of person. They know, why would I hold a grudge? They're doing the best they can. I want to follow that kind of message. I want to follow the message that heaven is not earned. I grew up in a bunch of faiths that said, well, born-again Christian, regular Christian, evangelical Christian, Mormon, that you earned your place in heaven. When I was in high school, I really wanted to convert people because I was told somehow in young life that I would get greater stars in my crown. And since I was really into glam, I thought, woo, oh, I could have the big, huge crown in heaven. I'm just going to convert people. And that really made my atheist, agnostic family kind of uncomfortable, as I saw who might be the weak one, to pick off. How many of you did that? Nobody else, just me? Just a few of you. Okay, then. Okay, great. What's so interesting is that if I followed his teaching, I would understand that heaven is not earned, it's just accepted. When he was on the cross, and he was by 2 other people, according to the story, historically, though, it wasn't just on the skull, the skull, the hill that he, you often see, a hill with 3 crosses. No, the Romans had
crucifix all over the place, and they made them very public so you could see what your punishment would be if you acted out or acted up. Ew. But anyway, the story goes that one gentleman who's a thief is being crucified, and he says, I deserve this, but you don't. And Jesus says, this day you'll be with me in paradise. You don't have to. He didn't earn anything. He didn't confess his sin. He didn't say, I take you as my Lord and Savior. Guess what? It's offered. He accepted. So just take a breath. Come to know in your heart. I'm going to say it, but you have to take it in. You have to. I love this. Jesus said, "Eat of my words." Do you know what that means? It's like take it in and make it change you, just like food changes you. You are what you eat. What are you taking in? Take in these words. Today you will be with the Christ in paradise. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to be good enough. We're just here to accept it. And I want to follow the message that you can let God shine in any situation and something will turn out well. Well. So he's up on the cross. This is the story. This is the story on the cross. So this is the final chapter of what would Jesus do. He's on the cross. And in most of the Gospels it says, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Emma Curtis Hopkins, 120 years ago, said what it really said was, my God, for this I was born, glorify me. That's what she said. Guess what it says in the Aramaic? It was glorify me. My God, glorify me. Meaning, bring glory to this situation. And it did. We don't talk about Pontius Pilate much, and nobody's following him. We're not talking about Caesar, nobody's following him, or Herod. Guess who we talk about? Who do we want to follow? The man who discovered the Christ. The man who discovered the Christ. I'm really grateful that Jerry talked about him teaching at 12 years old. I think he was just a spiritual prodigy. Just like we have young musical prodigies, like we've had artistic prodigies. Has anyone seen the 6-year-old that now designs clothes and has his own runway shows? Have you seen it? Yeah. He said at 3, when he was asked what he wanted for his birthday, he said, I want a sewing machine. That was not on my mind. And now he's making all these beautiful garments. And he's having his own runway shows. He's still in grade school. He's a prodigy. Why can't we have spiritual prodigies who get it? Who just get it? Who know that no matter what's going on, God can glorify that. I have 2 friends. They're not in this church. They went with me on a trip to Egypt. And both of them I found out about it about 2 months ago, had really, in the way of the world, not good diagnoses. One was in stage 4 cancer. The kind that usually kills you. Both of them did what Jesus did. They had just a small posse around them. And they drew the posse from people that knew that there could be possibilities of goodness and that God could be glorified in this situation. They only attracted to them in that circle people who would believe in miracles, not sympathy. Both of them have had miraculous recoveries. One had a surgery, and they thought that they would be taking out most of her insides, and guess what? They took out a small thing, and it had not done what they said it had done. The other one is it's all rated with numbers and stuff. The numbers went down to below normal. That's the glory of God. Why do some things happen? Maybe for the glory of God, so that God can show up and increase my faith. Yes, their lives are better, but it increased my faith. It increased the faith of everybody praying for them. It wasn't just a thing, it was a thing. So do you see that when he's saying, glorify thou me, he's saying, yeah, I'm not going to stay here long. That's another story. I'm going to get to it in a second. But make it so big, make the glory be so good and so powerful that it ripples out. I want to follow that. I want to follow that. That's the glory of God. Then let's talk about how we get involved. Because do you know that him dying in one day was a miracle? I mean, if you've been here before, you've heard this. This was a miracle. Crucifixion was invented by the Romans to be the most long, lengthy, painful, and miserable way to go. They worked it out. So you would just die slowly. Oh, and if you got thirsty, people would give you vinegar. Couldn't even have water. And he refused the vinegar. No, I'm not drinking that. The miracle was, he said, look, I've done my part. I'm done with this. And in 2 hours, he was gone. Like, I'm done. It's finished. How many of us, and this is what I want to follow. I want to follow a person who could demonstrate, when I say it's over, it's over. Yeah, I'll just hang on a little bit longer. It's not that bad yet. How many of you have done that? You want to play a little game? Jake, do you do Jewish music? Do you do Jewish lamenting music? Like really like lament? Can we get sad? And we've had some up music. Let's just have some lament. Lamentations, is that what it's called? Ooh, here. Oh, so Jake, I just love it. Let's give it a try. Yeah, just even deeper than that. So, I got this from Jean Houston, because she said a story is not a good story unless you enter into it. To enter into the story means that the story will change you at a level that's not really noticeable to your conscious awareness. So I call this sneaky consciousness shift. So I invite you to think of something you're still suffering about. What do you suffer over? Somebody's suffering here. Who has a suffer? Anybody got a suffer? Good. For those that are suffering, you can become free of suffering this evening. And that would be the glory of God. That would mean that Jesus' life was worth something. So for any of you that are suffering, you're suffering with the traffic, you're suffering with the, the news. You're suffering with your condo association. You're suffering with your car that doesn't work the way you want it to. You're suffering with your neighbors. How many of you are suffering? Gotta suffer? Good. Then hang on that damn cross. Come on. Jesus, no, stand up, get your arms out. Only if you're suffering. And call this the suffering, no, it was out here. Call this the suffering of your suffering. I love my husband. He said, are we going to do Stations of the Cross on our knees? I said, no, but this could be as painful. So you're going to just hold that. Now notice that you can do it for a while. If you notice, you can hold your hands out. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. But pretty soon, your arms are going to start to say, is it time to go down now? And then your mind is going to say, no, I can do this. I got this. Now, in a minute, you're going to listen to your body and you're going to say, I've had enough. Because he said, I'm finished. It's finished. And very quickly after that, he died. So in a minute or whenever, you don't get points for suffering longer, by the way. In a minute, you're going to take what's going on in your arms and it's going to represent the suffering you've been willing to put up with. It's what you're willing to put up with. And in a minute, you're going to say, I am so done with this. It is finished. I am done. And you're going to lower your arms. In fact, actually, you're going to let them collapse. But as they collapse, you know what's happening? You are finally giving up that suffering. That thing you're suffering over, it's finished. It's finished. You say it's finished when it's finished, and it will be finished. But you're done. It's not just the arms, it's the suffering. It's just get the suffering out of your consciousness. When it's done, it will be done because you say it's done. If we follow him, we can say it's done, and it will be done. And it will be done. If you say it's done, it will be done. And then you can sit and you can rest. And what do you do? What do you do when you give up all the energy, the time, and attention that you have spent coping with suffering? You know what you do if we're going to follow him? If we're going to follow? Oh, isn't there a song? I will follow him. But that was a totally different song, wasn't it? Anyway, it just came to mind. And anyway, but if I was going to follow him, what happens next? He totally surrendered. See, we put so much of our chi, our vital energy, our attention, our consciousness on coping. And when we finally give it up because it hasn't really worked, and it's only made us suffer, that's called surrender. So the last words, I surrender. I surrender. I give up. I place my consciousness, my life, my future in the hands of what he would call, well, we would translate it as the Father. It could also be translated as the source or origin. I let go and I let God. And then he knew that whatever happened would be good. And it turned out to be okay. He found out that life was eternal. So then he rose. Now, a lot of places, and will be teaching what I learned for a long time, that because he rose, I can be lifted because of him, which is, I get it. But what if I said, I will follow? I will follow. That means that I don't have to wait for his second coming. I can just surrender and be lifted. Take a deep breath. And imagine no matter what your life is like, you feel yourself being lifted into a higher plane. lifted into a higher awareness. Someone in one of my classes said, now I see things totally differently. Nothing's changed, but everything's different. It's like I just had cataract surgery. And all of a sudden, I can see where I couldn't before. I didn't even know I couldn't see. Now I know I can see. And this is like quantum physics. Because in quantum physics, there's multiple universes. There's a theory of multiple universes. There's a theory of that. And I heard this quantum physicist try to explain it to people like me. And he said, you're in a room and there's at least 100 radio stations in the room with you. And you take your radio and you choose to dial into one of them. What if right now you let the Spirit give you a station, that you're lifted into a station where you see things differently, where you see your own power, your own grace, where you start to see your ability to handle what's before you in a gracious, loving way? What if you saw yourself as no longer a victim, but a creator of your experience? What if you saw yourself as a benefit to others? It's just a turn of the station. And the Christ, when recognized and followed instead of worshipped, changes the station for us. So just take a moment and imagine that something beautiful is shifting your perspective. And you're allowing yourself to see that everything is grace. And that you're saved, yes, by grace. You're saved by grace. You're saved from your troubled heart, from your anxiety, from your thinking that you're unable to change anything, your powerlessness. By grace, your vision opens up. And it's like the dawning of a new day, because you're willing to give up your suffering and you're willing to surrender to the love that could make the Maharishi cry. Ah, how beautiful is that? And so it is.